Dear American Congress,
Gun control is an issue that very much divides a country. Half of the population are advocates for gun control, whereas the other half of our country are advocates for the Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Exactly, the right to bear arms. Gun control is unconstitutional.
Actually, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security. Are you a well-regulated militia? I think not.
Well, before we tear our country apart over this issue, let's see both sides of the story.
Us Americans need guns in our homes and our lives. If an intruder comes in, we need to be able to defend ourselves. This is what the Founding Fathers wanted from us. Giving guns away is like ripping freedom right out of my hands.
Guns need control, hence the name gun control. From 1999 to 2013, 464,033 people in America have died from guns. Guns are the 12th leading cause of death in America. That's insane. With weak gun laws, not only people who shouldn't have guns can get guns, but guns can be smuggled across state borders. You want an example so this isn't just hypothetical? Well, I'll show it to you. In Australia, when gun laws were instated, firearm homicide fell by 59% and firearm suicide fell by 65%.
Those are both interesting perspectives. My one question is, why would you need guns for self-defense if guns were banned? We have the police and military for a reason.
But
What may happen to our country if one group doesn't get their way or America doesn't find a compromise?
We don't need guns in America. We should fight like the men and women we are. We have fists for a reason, you know. The only people who need guns are those in the armed forces, the military, or the police force.
see, guns protect me from situations like these. I have a constitutional right to have a gun in my house. Would you want your rights taken away?
So you're saying you would kill me? Well, this is why we need gun control. And actually, gun control isn't even unconstitutional. If you go into the Constitution, it's not unconstitutional because you aren't a well-regulated militia.
Okay, let's break this up now, and let's get on with the facts.
Those who are pro-Second Amendment say that guns make America safer. Does it really, though? Look at these facts I found about how guns inflict the human's health. 200 Americans are put in the hospital every day with gun wounds. A woman's risk of being murdered with a gun is 600% more likely if a gun is present during the dispute. A common problem is when criminals steal guns from legal owners.
Fiona, we've heard your point, but let me restate mine. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Why are you blaming the guns? I'm one of those people planning for the apocalypse, and I want my gun for that. Also, what if the government became overrun, huh? America's fate would be in our hands.
Okay, both of you, calm down. I'm really starting to understand both of your points. One question I have is, what is the gun show loophole? Does it contribute to the gun deaths in America, or does it have no effect?
The Brady Law loophole, more commonly known as the gun show loophole, is the sale of firearms by private sellers. Any person can sell a firearm to an unlicensed resident of the state where they live, as long as they believe the person does not seem to want it for malicious activity.
Private sellers are not required to do background checks on their buyers. The private sellers are also not required to record the sale or ask for identification.
Hearing this information, I think this loophole needs to be closed. If background checks aren't necessary, then any unstable or shady characters can get their hands on guns. These sales aren't even recorded, so the police have no idea how many people have guns, or, for that matter, who has guns. How are we supposed to have a safe country if we don't even know who has guns?
We need gun control! I honestly still don't see why you're pro-Second Amendment, Parker. You want to make America safer, but the amount of deaths guns add? Just make it ironic.
But no, we heard both of your points. But what about the news? We should see what they say.
But what reliable news site can we use?
C-SPAN, it's the best.
Which is no fly, no gun. If you're too dangerous to board a plane, you should be deemed too dangerous to buy a gun. And what we've seen on the Senate floor today, there is a clear disconnect, and my colleagues are going to have to look at themselves in the mirror, and they're going to have to look at their constituents this November or afterward.
The news seems to say very similar things to both of you. Do either of you want to expand on one of the things that the politicians had to say?
I'm going to jump a little off news topic, but I agree with what Hillary Clinton said about guns. She said, "We may have our disagreements on gun regulations, but we should be able to agree on a few things." I think America should be able to agree we don't need AK-47s just floating around on the streets.
Okay, most people don't even own AK-47s, so they won't just be floating around the street. Most people who get a gun license or purchase guns get guns that are easier to control. In the case of self-defense, you wouldn't need an AK-47 to defend yourself. In other words, I agree with Marco Rubio when he says, the Second Amendment isn't a suggestion, it's a right. Therefore, we should be able to have these guns.
Both of your points are valid, but is there anything you want to add before we move on?
I agree with what Senator Blumenthal was saying back in the news clips. He said, someone who is considered too dangerous to fly should not be able to buy a gun. I totally agree with this, but should anyone really be able to buy a semi-automatic or automatic weapon?
I see your point with the no fly, no gun, but if there are people in the world who are like this, then we need to be able to protect ourselves. Because if they are in jail, then they could be anywhere, and we need to protect ourselves from them.
Both of you have very different points. Is there any way we can compromise? What would Congress be able to do?
A way we could compromise is that we can increase the amount of security around guns and better background checks, but still have guns available to the public. People could still get them, but it would be obscenely difficult for criminals to get their hands on them.
I think the best way to compromise would be to still keep guns, but strongly restrict them. We can ban all guns, besides for hunting rifles, since that's all you really need. If you so desire to shoot an automatic or semi-automatic weapon, then you can go to a shooting range where they will be kept. I also think we should completely annihilate the gun show loophole, so unlicensed owners and malicious people cannot get their hands on weapons.
These are both fantastic examples of compromises. If we took one or both of these, we could see a change in America. Though neither the advocates for gun control or these arguing the Second Amendment will get their way, at least by compromising, the country won't break up over this issue. Thank you for watching this episode of Congress Issues. Make sure you turn into the next episode.